Everybody, Invisiblekatana here, and unfortunately, we got to talk about this $1,000 Steam machine because that is a very unfortunate blow to the gaming community. Where, for me, I was hoping it was going to be something that would allow a lot of people to kind of get introduced to, playing on PC and having Steam and all the Steam sales and all the magic of indie games and everything that people who are on the fringe don't really get yet. Where it's like, yeah, I've kind of heard about it, but I haven't really, dipped my toes in. Maybe you've heard about mods. There's tons of people. Actually, I just put up a video talking about my history with mods and how I grew up with them. And when I first discovered mods, it was during the PS2 era. I wasn't like going home to look up on my laptop like, what are mods? That literally didn't exist at the time. But it's super different now. Like, you can see mods and you can just instantly figure out what that is. And then if you have a machine that can do it. And the Steam machine was going to be that option. It technically still is if you end up buying it. But with the cost and the power that it has, it's not in that 800 range that, that's what I was, it was all speculation, of course, before everything happened. And that's probably where it would have been, probably in the $800 range. And it's like, okay, especially with, the now price hike, that was, even when we were speculating, that was before the price hike of it was before the second or third. PlayStation, I feel, has had so many price hikes because they kind of do it by region, but it was before the final one where, the Pro is like $1,000 basically now too. And I was like, okay, that was still in a good range. It was like a decent enough PC. It was simple. It was basically going to be a PC console, which, at the time was going to be like this huge thing. Was like, dang, they kind of undercut Microsoft because that's what their whole thing was supposed to be, which they can still do that. And we'll see how much that costs. We'll see how much the PS6 costs. But of course, RAM prices, at this point, it's purely RAM prices. We've gotten past the tariffs being a part of it, but those RAM prices, it's just messing everything up. It's causing, obviously, that plus the tariffs is kind of what led to all the price hikes for all our consoles and everything. But for the Steam machine, that's just really unfortunate. Like, for me, I think the most unfortunate thing really is it was going to be that really huge gateway that I think was going to expand the community, because so many people would have been like, hey, it's the easiest version of getting a PC outside of like just buying a laptop, which, once again, even at the time when we initially thought like maybe $800 max, that's still cheaper than any $1,000 gaming PC and all that stuff. Plus, obviously that was pre-RAM and everything, so it was kind of like everything was balanced as to what it was meant to be, and it would have been a pretty good deal. But now it's like $1,000, and I'm pretty sure that the $1,000 is just, if I'm not mistaken, it was 512 gigabytes. That's crazy. Like, that's absolutely, like, not even 1 terabyte, like 512. That's crazy to me. So that, I don't even understand. Like, that almost is so crazy to me. I'm like, that's like the Nintendo Switch just came out. Like, you give me 512. Although the Switch 2, I think, probably only has 512 because, Nintendo's Nintendo. But that just seemed crazy to me because I'm like, this is still like a PC, it's a PC console deal. So it just seemed crazy to me. I'm like, this one, it ain't portable. I mean, I guess it is portable. It is literally just a box. So, but obviously not in the same way that the Switch is portable. But it really sucks to see it come out with this price where, odds are if you're watching this, you might still get it. Like, obviously you would be like more in tune with exactly what it is, but odds are you also probably already have a PC. Like, I'm good. Like, I have my PS5, I have a rig, and I have a gaming laptop. Not that the gaming laptop does much outside of help me edit because, it's a gaming laptop. I'm not really doing much on it at this point, now that I have a rig. But I'm set. I was already good. I was like, okay, like, I don't need this, but I love the idea. Like, it's something that I've kind of wanted for a super long time. But that's why you had to have a PC built, or you get yourself a piece, a gaming laptop. And now we finally had this thing where it was like, it was about to happen, and then RAM prices. And that does lead me, admittedly, to the very classic, billion, quadrillion dollar company couldn't take a hit. Like, no offense, but Gabe couldn't like sacrifice 20% of one of his super mega world crushing yachts to just put this out at a more decent price, because they could have put this out for $1.25 and that junk, they would have been fine. Like, it's Steam. Like, with the Steam sales they have, like, I know it's like $2 because you bought a game that was like 8 years old, but how many people bought that game? Like, that stuff adds up with the amount of people that are on Steam. Those $2 add up. Like, you start putting pennies together, you end up with $1 million effing dollars. So they could have sold it for cheaper if they wanted to. They easily could have sold it for cheaper. And I don't think that's something that we should let go, because of all the companies, they could all do it if we're being totally honest. Like every gaming company could do it. Microsoft could have done, they literally have, it's Microsoft. It's not just Xbox, it's Microsoft. PlayStation isn't just PlayStation, it's Sony. Nintendo's just Nintendo, but they're just that good at it. So they could take a loss if they wanted to. And Valve totally could have taken a loss and just put this out at the price and just got it in more homes to have more people sell. Like even if it was at like the $800 mark and not at like $700 or anything lower, people would have bought it 100%. Like it would have, once again, not even really as good as a base PS5, but at the same time, it's that trade-off. It's like, all right, well, I have a PC, a tiny PC that's super easy. If I want to take it somewhere, I can take it somewhere. Incredibly simple. You can figure some stuff out. You can, add things to it. You can, experience mods, all that stuff you can basically do because it is a tiny PC. So it has its things. But for $1,000, there's going to be a boatload of people that are like, yeah, but this doesn't matter. Like there's tons of us who are like, yeah, you can do this, this, and this. But for the people that aren't already doing that, and I think that's something that is typically forgotten a little bit, where it's like, if you're not already doing a certain thing, like if you're not already modding or adding, operating systems and stuff like that, $1,000 is a breaking point. That is a wall that's going to stop you from ever doing that. Like it has to be cheaper for people to get into that and be like, okay, I'll test it out. People don't tend to just test things out for $1,000, honestly. And anyone that's even thinking about it or looking into it is going to hear all the conversations of like, hey, it's $1,000 and it's not even as good as the base PS5. Yes, you will have Steam. You will have the option to get all the Steam sales and it'll be great and fantastic. And you don't need to do every single newfangled effing thing that NVIDIA is trying to pump out just to play your effing games at a decent frame rate. Like you really don't have to do that. But you're still spending $1,000 when it's like, why not just get a PS5 Pro? With the way cross-generation works, like obviously, you have to pick and choose what you consider more important. But with the way we've been doing cross-generation for the PS4, I think there's still games coming out for the PS4, which is absolutely insane. But the PS5 is probably going to be the exact same way. Whenever they even announce or actually release the PlayStation 6, we're still going to have the PS5 for a super long time. Xbox is the same way. They're coming out with, I think, codename Hexy or whatever the F is called right now. They're dealing with the Series S. That's been a big thing. Like every, couple of months, somebody's like, yeah, we aren't putting it out on Xbox because we had to make it crappy, basically. They didn't say that, but it's basically like, yeah, we had to make a crap version for the Series S. So like both of the companies have like some weird caveats and caps where it's like, there's a lot of cross-generation going on, for better or worse. So does it make more sense to buy this thing that's already, weak? Or do you just wait? Personally, I say wait, or like I said, just get a console. But it's a tough time. It's a really tough time. It's very unfortunate with the way things are. And like I said, for me, the main thing is that this blocks out a new pathway for a lot of people that I bet were hyped for this. Where it was like, I'm sure there are tons of people in the community that are already gaming, probably already even have a PC, that were just gonna be like, hey, I'm gonna pick it up. Tons of YouTubers are still gonna pick it up because it's literally their job. But I'm sure there are a lot of people that weren't YouTubers that were in the same camp. Like, I kind of just want to test it out and see. And then it was like, oh, there's like, about $300 more. I mean, we're not even talking tax. Like, this is just a pure $1,000 thing. We're not even talking tax on that. So you go with the other one, I think was like $1,200, and then you add tax on that. Think about how crazy that is. Like that's insane. So there's so many people, unfortunately, being blocked out of kind of jumping into the community in that way that it really sucks. Like that's honestly the thing that I think is most unfortunate, because I was excited for this to happen just think about how many people that were considering this who don't deep dive into games. Where it's like, they don't even really, it's like, okay, I've heard about Steam sales. There are tons of people that wouldn't know about this at all. Like by the time it came out, it could have blown up, if it was at a decent price. More and more people could have started to hear about it. I'm sure at some point it'll spread. Well, I don't know, we'll see how it goes. But if it was cheap enough, I'm sure at some point it would have spread to kind of the more casual populace of the gaming community. And that's where things could have blown up. Where it was like, hey, you got a boatload of extra people, hopping on the Steam, finding out about Steam sales, finding out about mods, all these sorts of things, realizing, hey, there are a boatload of games that don't effing have commercials. Honestly, like there are so many indie games that exist out there. There are so many games that are only on PC. I'm sure there's tons of people that have literally never considered the fact that there are games that only exist on PC because it's like, hey, I'm literally one person, so I just made this game. It's like, you want to test it out? You can only do that on PC. I'm sure there are people that play video games that have no concept of that because at some point you're just too young to know, and you need something to kind of just introduce you to that. Like it's just like anything else in the world where you literally don't have a concept of it. It does not exist. And then someone's like, hey, you ever heard of this? And you're just like, oh, I hadn't. I literally, I didn't think it was fake. I literally just didn't think about it because I did not know. So that I think is really the most unfortunate thing that comes out of this, where it's like, dang, there are so many people that could have had an opportunity to jump into things, get into the indie crowd of games, realize like, hey, not everything has to be, God of War or Gears of War or some insane over the top like AAA experience. I mean, heck, there's so many people that probably don't even use the term AA or even use the phrase indie games. Like those people I think are being blocked out, unfortunately, because of this price. And obviously it's not going to be like every single one of those people, would have magically gotten into PC gaming or anything. And of course, that goes into the separate conversation of like, man, I'm not trying to rush the all digital future. Believe me, I'm definitely not trying to rush that. But there are a lot of people that would appreciate the concept of like, hey, I can get more digital games. I can get things a bit easier. I can literally get, like I said, all the indie games that are out there that just quite literally do not exist on consoles. And with this price, those people are not going to be in. There might still be a couple people that, this still becomes that thing that pushes them over and they kind of transition into it. And I mean, good Lord, all we can do is hope that it's not always $1,000 for them to get some weak tech and, things, change and balance out a little bit. But that is really unfortunate. Just all the way around, it's like, dang, I was excited for this just for the community itself. And then it was like, crap. RAM prices. And of course, we'll see what happens. Valve might be the one company. They might. I'm not saying I have a ton of faith. Like I said, I already said, like they got $1 quadrillion. They easily could have sold this cheaper and been absolutely fine. But maybe when things kind of balance out a little bit, the price can drop. If anyone would do it, I think I would trust Valve more than any other company. And that's not saying much. But I might trust them a little bit more, that they would actually bring the prices down. I don't know if any of the consoles will do that, where it's like, yeah, everything's back to normal. I've said this a million times. Every time there was a price hike, I said the same thing. It'd be like, oh man, economic, structure right now, we gotta bump the prices up. And it's like, okay, tariffs are gone, right? It's like, yeah, but we already made the stickers up here, so we can't make new stickers for lower numbers. Like we're stuck now. So we'll see what happens. We will really see what happens. But as of now, it's an unfortunate situation in a lot of different ways. But for me, the biggest blow is to the community as a whole, for the people that were gonna use this as their transition into PC gaming, because I'm sure there were a lot of people. I'm sure a lot of people will still do it, but it won't be nearly as many as it was going to be when it was, it's 4 digits. It's got a comma in there. It's got like even a gaming console having a comma is way too much money for me. That's why like the PS5 Pro thing is just like, that's ridiculous. I mean, man, I hate the era we're in for gaming, and like a lot of, like, aside from the games actually coming, the games are coming out and they're great. Everything around gaming, around the actual games themselves, sucks. Companies are constantly falling apart. Consoles are literally rising for the first time in history. Consoles are going up in price. It was cheaper to buy it when it first came out. That is never, like, nothing on earth does that. Except for like random nerdy collectibles. Like consoles themselves that are just being mass produced should not be rising in price like they're old collectibles. Like I shouldn't have a PS5 rise in price like it's a sealed PS1 or something. Like that's ridiculous. So it's really crappy. Like community wise, it's been really unfortunate. And this is just another one of those things. Obviously it's just something we gotta face, and hopefully things start to balance out in tech and AI just crumbles and sucks its own nuts and dies. But that's where we are right now. Hopefully it gets better. That's all we can really hope for. And this really does get to be the outlet for a lot of people to join a new section of the gaming community. That's kind of, like I said, that was always my hope. That's like my main thing, where it's like, dang, that's what I want to see. I want to see more people get into more realms of gaming. Like, we have console gaming, you have handheld gaming. Not so, not nearly as much as we used to, admittedly. But I like when people are able to, test the waters. Like, you get into different versions of gaming, you get into PC, then you can get into modding. Like, I didn't mod games for a super long time, but I was on PC forever. And then it was like, you know what? I think it's time to actually figure out how to do mods. And I did. Like, it still takes steps. It's not like you're just gonna, boom, you get a PC, you're instantly modding or anything. But there are a lot of different opportunities that come from PC gaming. Like I said, aside from modding, you have Steam sales, which is an opportunity to save some effing money. Of course, you have, all the games that exist on Steam that do not exist anywhere else. There's just a lot of different elements there. And unfortunately, a lot of people have now been blocked from that opportunity because of these prices. So I hope it changes soon. I hope a lot of things change soon. I mean, let's be honest, just money in general is getting a little tight around these pots. But hopefully it gets better. Obviously, there's still going to be tons of cool games to play, tons of cool experiences to be had. But this is like the one thing where I'm like, as much as I want all the consoles to come back down in price, the Steam machine was the one where I'm like, that was the entryway for a lot of people to get into PC gaming. And I think that is a really big deal. I think it's important to have more people in all facets of gaming. So hopefully that shifts and it makes a decent comeback. It probably won't be for months or hopefully a year at most, because once again, AI can just, if it dies quick, things are going to be great. Like, that's all we got to wait for. Hope, we got to figure something out with that. But that's where I'm at right now. Those are my main thoughts on it. The price is unfortunate, but for me, it's really just the fact that it's another gateway. It became more of a gateway, or more of a block, I should say, for people getting into PC gaming, because that's what I was hoping for. And it was gonna, seem simple, but it would have changed a lot of stuff. When you have more people experience like a newer version of something, it's like, oh, lots of ideas come from that. There would have been tons of people to realize, like, oh, you can just, like, games can be super simple. Like, there are tons of games that seem like, simple indie games and stuff. But then when you get on like PC and you're like, oh, you can literally just be like, I am one person and I just make a game. There are a lot of people that don't realize that that's the case. There's 5 friends just made like an insanely popular game or something. Like, there are tons of people that don't know those stories in gaming because they aren't that deep into it. They aren't into PC gaming. They aren't, once you start looking into like, oh, how do I mod? How do I do this? You start finding other stuff. Like, things will start popping up like, hey, did you know this exists on PC and stuff like that. It's a very, it's a good gateway. It's not like, a gateway drug. It's gateway gaming. So we'll see how it all pans out, but that's where my head's at right now. It's very unfortunate, but of course, I would love to know what you guys think about all this. Like, what, just in general, where's your head at with this price announcement and what the future may or may not hold for the Steam machine? So please put your comments down in the comment section below. And of course, thanks for watching.